That's why, like, I belong to this traditional community which are called Vishwakarmas, who are like practicing people. The tragedy which happened to my family is like no one practicing art now. All are engineers and doctors. So alone artist I am. So this is like kind of like sir, I didn't know about sir much when I was attending interview. Slowly I come to know that he seriously feels that there is lot of injustice happened to these communities like us, that it has been taken as like it's a injustice, serious injustice, that one have to seriously pay back. Whole generation has to pay to these artisans what they damaged. So somewhere I think he saw in that direction, and he taken me in this PhD program. And I was, that time also I was wondering, like I was very weak in this kind of theoretical things and all. I am just practitioner who know how to draw, how to paint, whatever it is. So I said, like, why is he hiring me? I didn't know that, like, till now. And then he slowly explained me that, I saw something in you that still I have to discover what is that. So something like that, this boy can do something. I think so. So I am fortunate that I worked with him in some projects called Socianity and Telangana project, where seriously we went to an artist and then we worked with them and we try to understand the communities, understand their painting, understand their practice. The idea of my research is that to come up with a rationale behind those painting. So these are, in modern time, even I am a modern painter actually. So I believe that doing every time new painting is art. Creativity is nothing but doing every time new things, and new things only appreciated and it has a value. Whereas the repetition which Gond painter does, or else Madhubani painter does, or else any Patchitra painter does, is called as craft, called seen as low. So this is injustice. He used to believe that repetition is, it adds a value to art. Repeating things brings up something called adab. And this repetition is what he asked me to do a research on, which is called style. So my research started on style, and I started working on style. What are the components which makes style as style? How banis are created? How ritis are created? How kalam, we call it kalam, which is again a Greek root for stylus, which is the word style come from that root word called stylus. So this style is, again, style is used in very simple way, like your style, my style, lifestyle, and that style, this style. But style is not that simple thing. It is very complex thing that, if you want to create your own gharana, like your own school, it takes lot. It takes not only people, like hundreds of thousands of people, community work, because Patchitra is not individual art, it is a community work. So community together is imagining to create the style, create that school. So what kind of formal, what kind of formal and aesthetics involves in that is what my research work is. How come, like, collectively everyone agrees to something which is beautiful and start practicing it? What are those components which they agree to? Why, like, how come they are practiced so many years, like thousands of years they are practicing, till now they are practicing? What it does has, which is, see, there are so many books which people have written on folk paintings and traditional painting, which they give causes from external side, like social side, anthropological side, ethnographical side, and all. But my focus is to see an artistic side of it. What are the composition principles and what are the number of strokes? Like, for example, in Gond, there are only 10 strokes. They are enough to draw a human figure. And those between even those 10 strokes gives you maximum number of expressions, limited number of strokes and maximum number of expression. How is it possible is what my query is, to see that how this has been done and to give a rationale behind it. So for this, what I did is, like, I started studying European texts and Indian texts to understand this. So there's one famous, like, Paul Klee and Kandinsky, which I started with reading, like. And sir said, like, the primitive, the basic thing to make a painting is a stroke. So stroking is nothing but painting. So by stroking only you change a shape of a painting, you reshape it, shape it. It's actually reshaping happening on painting also. At the same time, as she said, it's in imagination also. The shaping is happening of the painting. So basic component of any painting is a stroke. So we said like to understand style in painting, basic formally, stroke is a minimum thing by which we can understand a style. Stroke is only action can be understood in painting only through strokes. So I taken a stroke as a elementary, a basic component, and then one can understand style for a composition also. The way they presented, there also style hides. Style is from the stroke to composition. Anywhere you can see the style. The overall presentation can be a style, or else the stroking can be a style, minimal to maximum. So this I am just giving you an example for that complexity of style itself. So it has that kind of depth, and then we added a component called icons, style and icons. So icons are nothing but the images which artists want to communicate through the strokes. So painting, if you see a painting, painting only has a strokes. The shape is created by us in our imagination. There is no dog, there is no fish. Fish and dogs are here in our mind. We are just, it is between the painting and our mind exist those shapes. Shapes are like dynamic, shapes are belongs to a world of imagination. Shape doesn't belong to a reality. Shaping happens, it is a happening space, it's a dynamic space. So we took icon as a story which artists want to say through these strokes. So we started studying this. So I wanted to know what people have already said about stroke. So I started with Paul Klee. He said like stroke is nothing but point. When you put a force to point with the direction is stroke, a line. When you point is like point has a potential which is like a naughty boy I call. So it always wants to walk, always wants to go out, and only it will walk when you put a force on point and then put a direction, the line get birth. The walk of a line creates a shape. The shape gives you a third entity called color. So like this generative way of understanding elements are there in Paul Klee, which is very good, which is we understood lot from him. And then also similar theories given by Kandinsky also. They are formalist, Bauhaus School of Art. So there are Michael Layton, who again lot of literature who, but what we found in Paul Klee, what sir used to say is like, he is missing somewhere. Like, imagine Paul Klee is missing somewhere, I am commenting like that. He is Bap of Bap all. So this ability sir gave me, that you can criticize. It's not like don't idolize too much. They are believed in gravitational understanding of this element, and imagination never follow any gravitational understanding. It is altogether different nature. So when we draw, when an artist draw, he don't think like I'm point and then putting a force and line. Artist directly draw see, if I want to draw a tiger, I directly draw a tiger eye. My each stroke is a body there, a part of a body I am presenting there. Each time I am putting one body part to another body part and arranging there. It is not like I think all this point, line, shape and all when I draw. I directly draw animal. I don't think all this. So this, he said like strokes are nothing but part of the body, which is again like similar. I used to say, sir, similarly, Merleau-Ponty said something like that. He said, no, Merleau-Ponty is different. So whenever I used to take all these great peoples to him, he used to discard them like that in front of me. I used to read and admire them and take Merleau-Ponty, Kandinsky, introduce them. नहीं कुछ हम नहीं बोल रहे हैं. We are saying something else. This is what he is, and somehow we are working on that, and still I am working on trying to understand the structure of the painting and coming up with a theory of these styles. Ultimate goal is to provide some kind of a tool by which one can read these paintings formally. And there is a strong belief that the metadata of a painting is available inside the data inside the painting itself. To know a painting, you can know through only seeing the painting. Only need of this time is to give a tool to the audience so that he can understand those paintings. So this, if I come up with this grammar or else this kind of a system, by that system one can analyze not only folk paintings, one can analyze any painting in the world, whether it is Picasso's painting or whether it is whose ever painting. So this is what I am working on, and yeah, that's how things are. Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
But the architectural content of it is not derived from the brick.
There is another way you are too much involved in bricks, then you cannot see a building. In the sense, when you only see strokes in paint, the structure of the whole building. So, for example, my area of study is a style. As I said, style can vary from the stroke to the composition, total building. So, my sir used to tell me, start with a scratch and see all the shapes, composition, the way the arrangements, and then so that you can say something substantially about that building.
If I can add to this, when we are reducing something, when you say it is a bricks, and from bricks we cannot understand architecture, but when we are reducing something, we are not reducing it to bricks. We are reducing it to such a structure so that when we develop again, architecture is built from that. So we are looking at an architecture. So that little bit understanding of architecture will have in that smallest unit also, and it will have an understanding of brick also.
Yeah. Also, actually, there is no reduction happening. Actually, there is just an opening up of the granularity of the actual fabric of reality, and looking at it with that kind of a very microscopic lens, and how many minutest parts are actually. So, what are the tattvas? So, ontologically, formally, ontologically, what are those parts? So, in that, it looks like there will be, for each art form, there will be a certain limited number of parts which we will focus on, whereas the entire universe has just too many. So the categories of reality, of course, we arrive at differently according to whichever darshan maybe we are going to. It's not actually a reductive act. What we are trying to arrive at is a generative grammar of each of these art forms. So then there is a lot of kriya and lot of discussion, and each of our thesis, maybe if you read more in detail, you'll arrive at those very many. So even for a patch is just one of the minimal conditions. But there is, even for that patch to take place, there are at least 11, 12 different states that I arrived in through my own experience of at which all levels certain creative decision is taking place. So it's about opening more of the granularity in a formal sense, if that helps.
Reductionist, he often used to give a word called a rarefication, a rarefied way of thinking. Can you rarefy, or rather, I still remember his conversation, a very thing, can art exist without artists? This anthropocentric thing that art, because of art, artist's life so far art lives is okay, but actually he moralist would contend there is something very, very formal about art. There are formal components of art. Till we go to the tables of each other, all are artistic components. There is something called kala, there is something called vidya. There is common across the globe, across the stratas, across thinking, east, west, and so many possible worlds, if there is. Can we have a unified theory? Is it possible or not? Can thinking or cognition be made formal? How do we perceive? Interestingly, if you say the arrangement of papers we made, if he is working on perspective and someone is working on memory and imagination, someone is perception. We are all working, some on memory, some on imagination, some is on action. So all of us are trying to construct a kind of an ideational reality, and henceforth can it be transferred into material reality. So material brick is okay, but somehow he made us think entire architecture without physical bricks. And after that, can you fill it with a brick or with a mortar or with wood is left to later ideations.
It's like teaching parts of speech and the dictionary before a person can understand how to communicate ideas better.
No.
Speech is already there, no?
Yes.
Speaking,
Yes.
communication is already there.
Practice in architecture, like the building of Ranakpur temple, and what they would do is that first is a design, and then after the design, the bricks were actually suggested that you should have this thick brick or not, which is very similar to what she was saying about the swaras. That you see, there is a standard kind of notation, but these notations, these like Shadaj, the way that you do in Murchana for the practice, not exactly that Shadaj is not used in any rag. So therefore, in this, what is this book? Ahobal wrote, 17th century. he said that it's not as if the swaras make the ragas, it's the other way around. It's the ragas which actually give birth to the swaras, you know. So the kind of differentiation that you are making is not there. I mean, it's not as if that you can separate that part, because part is decided on the basis of the imagination of the whole. So the icon, what he's saying, that icon and the stroke actually are part of one thing.
Me to understand the way Sir was approaching. We knew the Tarkashastra, but the way he was looking at whatever Rajesh explained, it took me quite a bit of time to appreciate, although we knew the kind of textual stuff, but to kind of summarize a kind of a philosophy in simple, fundamentals was a very unique way of approaching it. So he used to use a word called as ekavakyata. He said every philosopher, when he reaches his samadhi, he has some kind of a insight which kind of can be summarized, and that's what we need to capture. And when I started working on the Dvaita related thing, I had no idea how to go about it. So it took me quite a bit of time to arrive at a similar thing, the way Vaisheshik he has come up with, to identify that there is a very fundamental philosophical insight in Dvaita Vedanta, which is basically the kind of niyamaka, niyamya bhava, and there are quite a few details which we evolved over time. So just want to stress that it's not just a reductionist point. It was basically a fundamental insight into each philosophy and how that can kind of expand into the whole universe. That's it.
I would also like to add, in fact, it was framework for the modern knowledge systems. So, for example, can you think of having a similar to a Paninian Vyakaran, can there be a physics sutra and chemistry sutra? So that and you can actually looking at the Indian knowledge systems commentatorial traditions, you actually see that there is one foundational sutra text and then there are commentaries. So it's usually a development of that. In all darshanas, you have one foundational text. So Professor Amjyoti said that's an incorrect attempt because you don't have the ekavakyata in physics and you don't have the ekavakyata in any of the other modern sciences because those systems, the Indian knowledge systems have developed from the samadhi that Srinivasa was referring to. So you have one of the founders of that school having that insight of the whole darshana in that moment, and all of that is an explanation in the later time. So it is possible that it can be just a momentary understanding, seemingly a momentary understanding, but it's at a very foundational level which is explained and expounded later, unlike the reductionist approach which is not at that foundational level. So that was the difference that he was trying to make, distinction that he was trying to make between what is seemingly reductionist in modern sciences and the granularity or the samadhi of the Indian